Hey everybody, welcome to Misty Moon Designs. Thank you so much for stopping by. My name's Louisa. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make an asymmetrical necklace. It's going to be a double strand and it's going to be on the longer side. So if you like that kind of thing, you're in the right place. I'm going to be showing you step by step how to make it. And we're going to be using the beads that came in the GGC Treasure Bag, the latest release, which came out in April. The name of the collection is Denim Days. Now if you didn't buy the bag, don't worry, you can still make this project. I'll be listing all of the materials down below in the description section of this video. And of course, you can always go to the website, the ggctreasures.com website, to see if they have extras from the bag. And I'll list that link down below. Now I did do an unboxing video for those beads, so if you missed out on that video, I'll link it down below as well. But anyway, whether you're a beginner or advanced, hopefully you'll enjoy today's video. As you can see, this gorgeous necklace and earring set features very pretty light blue colored beads. Some of them are faceted and some of them are smooth. It also features some Sodalite gemstone beads and a gorgeous Indonesia bead focal, as well as some other larger flower focal beads. And of course, we'll be making a pair of earrings to match, so you'll end up with a beautiful ensemble. And don't forget that I always model my pieces at the end of my tutorials, so please stick around for that. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Now for this necklace, we're going to use a whole bunch of different kinds of beads, as you can see, but they're all relatively small. They're not very large, except for these, which I'm going to use as focals. And I will list all the sizes and everything down below in the description section of this video, but let me go over the sizes with you real quick. These are called Nugget beads. They're electroplated and they measure 6.5 by 7 by 6 millimeters, and the color is Prussian blue. These are frosted Sodalite gemstone beads. They measure 6 millimeters in size. These are coin beads. They're also electroplated and they measure 8 by 5 millimeters. And here we have some glass cube beads. They measure 6 by 6 by 7 millimeters. And they're kind of multicolored. It's hard to see, but they are multicolored. It's very subtle though. And here we have some flower beads. The color is deep blue and they measure 10.5 by 10.5 by 10.5. They're kind of square shaped. And here we have a handmade Indonesia bead. It measures 15 millimeters across. I'm also going to use a few of these Cuboid beads. These came in the bag as well. They measure 4 by 4 by 4 millimeters and the color is light steel blue. Let me just put them over here for a second. I'm going to actually use these with the flower beads, and there's a reason for that. I'll explain later on when we get ready to mount these on wire. I'm also going to use some Daisy spacer beads at the top of each bead, and that's because the holes are pretty big. And today we're going to use 20 gauge wire. This color is titanium. I really like it because it's not bright silver, it's more like a dark silver. And we're going to be doing some simple loops, that's why I'm using 20 gauge. So whenever you have a collection like this, you have to decide which bead you're going to use the most of. Obviously, I have a lot of these little ones at the top, so I'm going to be using more of those. These are going to be focals. The necklace is going to be asymmetrical, so I'm going to have 4 of these on one side and the Indonesia bead on the other side. It's going to be a 2-strand necklace. As you can see, I don't have very many of these cube beads, so that's something I need to take into account when I'm laying out my bead pattern. And the bead pattern is actually going to be structured, but I'm going to lay it out in a way that's going to appear kind of random. I use this technique often whenever I'm working with different amounts of beads, so hopefully you'll find this helpful. Let me just remove these out of the way for the time being, and I'll move this one as well for now. Now the bag did come with a list of contents where it showed the amount of beads of each kind. And I've already used some of these in one of my previous designs, so I actually don't know how many I have, and I haven't counted them. Of course, you can always count them yourself, but I don't have a lot of patience for that, so I'm just going to get right to it. I know I have 63 of these Sodalite beads, and I have about 45 of these nuggets, and I'm guessing I have about 40-something of these coin beads, just by looking at the amount. So obviously I have more of these Sodalite beads than the other 2 kinds, so I'm going to want to repeat these a little bit more often, and I'm going to have to be a little bit more conservative with these. So the first thing I'm going to do is to lay out these beads. I'm going to start with one of these nuggets and then a coin bead, and I'm going to repeat the same pattern. So nugget, coin bead, nugget, coin bead, and so on and so forth. So now I'm going to incorporate these Sodalite beads, and since I have more of these, I'm going to go ahead and space them out in between 2 of the crystal beads. So I have a nugget, a coin bead, a Sodalite bead, a nugget, coin bead, Sodalite, or Sodalite, and so on and so forth. Let me go ahead and lay out some more on this side. Nugget, coin bead, Sodalite, Nugget, coin bead, Sodalite. So now that I've established a pattern using the smaller beads, I need to incorporate these. So let me space these out a little bit more. So I think what I'm going to do is add a cube bead after 2 of these repetitions. So I have a nugget, coin bead, Sodalite bead, nugget, coin bead, Sodalite bead, and now I'm going to add a cube bead right there. So once again, nugget, coin bead, Sodalite, nugget, coin bead, Sodalite, and now a cube bead. And that's basically how I'm going to be distributing these beads. Let me just place a cube bead on this side. I don't want to keep going that way because it'll go off frame, but I think you get the idea. So this way I'm distributing the beads evenly in a structured pattern, but it looks kind of random. And I'm going to use the exact same pattern for the 2 strands at the bottom as well as the strands at the top by the clasp. Hopefully I'll have enough beads. Now there is a way you can figure out if you have enough beads, and that is to do a little bit of math. What you can do is go ahead and mount one of the beads on wire. As you can see, I've already mounted this one, and measure it. And this one measures about 5/8 of an inch. So then you would have to do a little bit of math based on the length of that component and also the length of your necklace. That's another way to do it. But don't forget, we're also going to be adding these focals. And since I've already established the bead pattern, I'm going to go ahead and lay out the beads, including the focals, to give you an idea of what the necklace is going to look like. So let me go ahead and do that. Here's a quick preview of what I'm going to do. Now this may not be the final layout. I just wanted to give you an idea. Also, I don't have much space here, so I couldn't lay out too many beads, but I think you get the idea. And the top of the necklace will be laid out the same way, the same bead pattern, but obviously instead of 2 strands, it'll be 1 strand. And I may end up adding 1 more of these flower beads on the left. So instead of 3, I may have 4. I'm going to have to figure it out, but this gives you an idea. So as you can see, I have the exact same bead pattern. So on the lower strand, I have a cube bead, a nugget, coin bead, Sodalite, nugget, coin bead, Sodalite, cube bead, and then I'm repeating it again, nugget, coin bead, Sodalite, nugget, coin bead, Sodalite, cube bead, and I'm repeating the same pattern all the way up to the Indonesia bead. Same thing with the upper strand. I started with a Sodalite bead, then a nugget and a coin bead, Sodalite, cube bead, and then nugget, coin bead, Sodalite, nugget, coin bead, Sodalite, cube bead, nugget, coin bead, Sodalite, nugget, coin bead, Sodalite. And you can start and end with whichever bead you want to. Obviously, you don't want to start both strands with the same bead if you want that random look. But anyway, I hope this helps a little bit. I hope it gives you some tips on how to use beads of different shapes and sizes so that it's structured but it looks random. So now that I have some idea of what we're going to do, I'm going to show you how to mount these beads on wire. And to do that, I'll clear my table because I think it'll help with the focus. So let me do that and I'll be right back. I'm going to start by showing you how to mount the focal beads. And we'll start with a flower bead first. I'll show you how to do this one in a few moments. Like I said, I'm going to have about 3 or 4 on one side of the necklace. And I'm using a daisy spacer and one of these cuboid beads. The holes on this bead are pretty large, which is why I'm using the daisy spacer bead, but I'm also using it because I want to tie in the metal from this bead because this one has silver metal, as you can see. Now I'm going to use the cuboid bead down below, and the reason I'm doing that is because it's going to make it a lot easier for me to create simple loops on this side of the bead. Because as you can see, it's concave, and it would be very difficult for me to fit my pliers in there. So here I have a piece of 20 gauge wire. It measures about 1.5 inches in length. I'm going to grab the top at about 3/8 of an inch down, bend it. Using my round nose pliers, I'm going to grab the end, making sure that it's flush, and I'm going to create a loop. So now I'm going to slide on the daisy spacer bead, the flower bead, and the cuboid bead, like that. I'm going to grab the wire with my pliers, and I'm going to go ahead and bend it. Using flush cutters, I'm going to cut off the excess, leaving 3/8 of an inch or so. grab the end with my round nose pliers, and form a loop. And now I'm going to go ahead and line up my loops. Make sure they're facing in the same direction. And that's all there is to it. Now I've already created 3 beaded components with the flower beads, as you can see, and I've connected them. And to connect them is very easy. If you're advanced, you already know how to do this, but I'm showing the beginners. I'm simply going to open up this loop. Slide the component into it like this and close it up. So this is going to be the left side of the necklace, or the right side depending on how you're viewing it. And like I said, you can do 3 or 4, it's up to you. And I actually may change my mind once I build the lower strands. But this is what I'm thinking about for now. And I'm actually going to connect the lower strands using some 6mm rings, closed rings, but we'll do that later on. And I'm going to mount the beads for the lower strands in the same manner using 20 gauge wire with simple loops, just like this one right here. But let me show you how to do this one now. It's the same exact thing, but this one has holes that are actually pretty large, as you can see. So I'm going to use some Daisy spacer beads to cover them up. There's 2 of them. So here's another piece of 20 gauge wire, and once again, I'm going to bend it at 3/8 of an inch. Grab the end, making sure it's flush with my barrels. Form a loop. Make sure the loop is closed and centered. Slide on a Daisy spacer bead, and now the Indonesia bead, like that. And now another Daisy spacer, like so. I'm going to grab the wire right above the Daisy spacer bead, bend it, cut off the excess, leaving 3/8 of an inch, grab the end, and form a loop. Let me line up my loops. And that's how you do this one. So once again, I'm going to have this one on one side and these on the other side, and then the 2 strands down below. And I think to make things easy, instead of using 6mm rings, I'm going to use 8mm rings. So the 2 strands will be connected to those rings. But I'll show you how to do that later on once I build the strands. And like I said, I'm going to be using the smaller beads for those. Let me just move these out of the way. Here's a coin bead. Here's another piece of wire. Once again, I'm going to grab it at 3/8 of an inch down, bend it, grab the end, form a loop, slide my bead on, like so, grab the wire, bend it, cut off the excess, leaving 3/8 of an inch, grab the end, form a loop, line up my loops, I'm going to open up this one, slide this component into it, and close it. So there's the beginning of one of the strands. So once again, I'm going to connect these smaller beads to the focals using a ring, like that. Very, very simple. But let me go ahead and build the 2 strands. I'm also going to build the ones for the top, and then when I come back, we'll assemble the whole thing. So I'll see you in a few moments. Okay, I'm back, and as you can see, I've completed my strands. These 2 are going to go at the top of the necklace by the clasp, and these are the two lower strands. And let me give you the measurements real quick, although it really doesn't matter because ultimately you're going to have to decide how long you want your necklace. But these two measure 10 inches each, and each of them has 18 components. This first one measures 9 inches and it has 16 components, and this longer one measures 11 inches and it has 20 components. So as you can see, it's a pretty long necklace, because by the time we connect them to the focal beads and add the clasp, it's definitely going to add to the length. Of course, a lot of it depends on the size of your loops. If you make larger loops, obviously your strands are going to be a little bit longer. So now we just need to assemble the whole thing. Let me just remove these for the time being. I have my two closed rings here. Each one measures 8 millimeters across. Now, one thing I do want to talk about are the orientation of the loops. You want to make sure that when you connect your strands to the rings, that the rings sit flat against your chest. And in order to achieve that, you want to make sure that this loop here and this one here is vertical or perpendicular to your mat. Because as you can see, the rings are horizontal or parallel to the mat. And it's a very important tip, especially if you're new, because if you don't do that, the necklace isn't going to sit properly. The strands will be flipping around and the rings will be flipping around, and it'll drive you nuts. So the way that I check that is to go through each component. I start with this one and I want to make sure that the loop on this component, the first one, is vertical. The next one's horizontal, vertical, 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 horizontal. So as you can see, this one here is horizontal, which isn't going to work, which means that I need to change one of these two loops. So I'm going to change this last loop so that it's vertical or perpendicular to my mat, which means that these two loops are going to be perpendicular to each other. I hope that makes sense. And it's very easy to do. I'm simply going to grab this loop here. And with another set of pliers, I'm going to grab this one and turn them so that they're perpendicular to each other, just like that. So that should solve the problem. Another way to solve the problem is just to add another beaded component, which I could have done, but I'm not going to do that this time. And I did check this lower strand and I have the same problem with this one, so I need to change the loops on this last component so that they're perpendicular to each other. So now when I go to connect the rings to the loops, they should connect properly. Now, if you forget this step, it's not a big deal, especially with a long necklace, but it matters tremendously if you're using a link or a component that needs to sit flat on your chest. Now, as far as the strands go, I'm not going to worry about it too much because I'm going to be using jump rings and a clasp at the top. I mean, it's not a big deal, guys, but as far as the rings go, since they're up on your chest, you really do want them to sit flat on your chest. You don't want them sideways. And by the way, I know I mentioned it before in case you missed it, these rings are closed rings. They're not jump rings. They're actually soldered. But if you don't have them, you can always use jump rings. That's okay too. And like I mentioned, they're 8 millimeters in size. So let's go ahead and connect this end. I'm simply going to open up this loop, slide my ring into it, and close it. And now I'm going to open up this loop, and slide the ring into it as well, and close it. So now I need to make sure that my components connect properly at the other end. So let me go ahead and open up this loop, slide this ring into it, and close my loop. Let me just double check the orientation of all my loops. I know I want this one to sit flat or parallel to my mat. So let me check the beaded components. I want this ring to sit parallel as well. So now let me check this lower strand. to make sure that I connect it properly. So it needs to be like this. Let me go ahead and open up this loop carefully. Slide my ring into it this way, like this, and close it up. And that's what we have so far. Now, if you don't connect it correctly, you'll know because the necklace just won't sit properly. The beaded components will be all twisted up and you'll know right away that something's wrong. But I think that's correct. And guys, don't worry about it too much. If you don't get it right the first time, you can just keep trying until you get it right. It's not a big deal. So now we're going to connect the focal beads. We have this one here and we have this strand here. And like I said, it's going to be asymmetrical. So let me go ahead and open up this loop. Slide the ring into it, like this. Close it up. And now I'm going to open up one of these loops and slide the ring into it as well. It's a bit tricky because I have that spacer bead. I want to make sure the spacer bead doesn't slide off. There we go. And now let me close the loop. So now we have the focal beads attached. I know you can't see the whole thing, but I think you get the idea. And I am going to model it for you at the end of this video, so please stick around for that. But as you can see, we have the asymmetrical effect because of these beads here. The two lower strands begin lower on this end, and they end up higher on the other end because of the focal beads. So now we're going to attach the strands that go to the clasp. And it's very easy to do. Here they are. And by the way, both of these strands are identical as far as the bead sequence. I started with one of the Sodalite beads, and then one of the Nuggets, coin bead, Sodalite, cube, Nugget, coin bead, Sodalite, Nugget, coin bead, Sodalite, cube, Nugget, coin bead, Sodalite, Nugget, coin bead, Sodalite. And this one's exactly the same sequence. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this end to this bead. Let me open up this loop. Close up the loop. And now I'm going to attach this one to this end. So let me go ahead and open up this loop. Slide my strand into it and close it. So now I have the strands attached, and I think it looks really, really pretty. I really like it. So now I just need to attach the clasp, and I'm going to use 5mm jump rings for that. I'm going to use 2 on one side and 1 on the other, and that's because I'm using a toggle clasp. I don't want to have to struggle with it, so here's my toggle clasp. Let me go ahead and open up one of these jump rings. Slide this jump ring into it. And slide this loop into the jump ring as well. open up this one. I guess I could have done it all at once. Oh well. It's a little bit late in the day and I'm kind of tired. Let me close this one up. These are actually very thick jump rings and they're pretty tough to close, but that's a good thing. So the bar portion is attached. And now let me open up this one. Slide my ring portion into the jump ring and slide this end of the strand and close it up. So it's always a good idea to have an extra jump ring on this end so that when you do it up, you don't struggle. It's just a lot easier to do it that way. Of course, you could always use a lobster clasp if you prefer. So here's my necklace. I know you can't see the whole thing, so let me go ahead and slide my camera up. There's the top. Let me bring it down. Hopefully you get the idea. One thing I'll say about this necklace, I love the blue sparkly beads and I love the contrast of the frosted Sodalite beads. And of course I love that Indonesia bead and these focals as well. I hope you like it as well. So now before I model it, I'd like to go ahead and make a pair of earrings. So let me get the materials for that. Here are the materials for the earrings. As you can see, I've already made one. And I usually like to keep my earrings on the simple side. I don't like earrings that are too elaborate. But as you can see, I have a nugget bead, one of the flower beads, the cuboid bead right below it, and one of these coin beads. And I think it's a very simple but cute earring. I did add a daisy spacer bead right there, as you can see. And here I have all the beads lined up. I'm going to use a ball head pin for the coin bead and a piece of 20 gauge wire for the rest of the beads. So let me go ahead and show you how to do that. I'm going to go ahead and bend my wire at 3/8 of an inch down. Grab the end, form a loop. I'm going to slide on the nugget bead first. And now the daisy spacer bead. And now this bead, the flower bead. And now the cuboid. Like that. I'm going to grab the wire and bend it. Cut off the excess, leaving 3/8 of an inch or so. Grab the end. Form a loop. Line up my loops so they're facing the same direction. So that part's done. And now let me go ahead and mount this coin bead onto my ball head pin like that. Grab the pin with my round nose pliers like this, bend it, reposition my pliers, wrap the tail around the nose of the pliers, flip the pliers around, continue to wrap that pin to the back. So now I have a loop. I'm going to grab the loop with these pliers, grab the tail, and do a couple of wraps. Cut off the excess pin. Tuck in that little end. So that's what we have so far. And now I'm going to open up this loop. Slide my dangle into it. Close up the loop. Like so. And now I'm going to open up this loop slide my ear wire hook into it and close it up. And that is very, very simple. But I don't know about you, I love simple projects, I really do. And I like simple earrings. And these are very, very cute. I hope you like them as well. Let me go ahead and get the necklace. So here's the whole ensemble. A beautiful asymmetrical necklace with earrings to match in that gorgeous light steel blue color. I love all the sparkle, obviously, but I also like the frosted beads. And I love the different shapes of the focal beads. And of course, that Indonesia bead adds a lot of interest and some texture as well. I think it's a very pretty set. I hope you like it, and I hope you can make your own. So now I'd like to show you how it looks like. So let me go ahead and put it on. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.